Hi, everybody. I'm so excited for you to be joining us. I am here with Antonio, who is my dear client, and we are really excited to be sharing his story. So, Antonio, tell us a little bit about, first of all, where you're located and just a little bit about yourself.
Yes, Jeannie, thank you. I'm Antonio. I'm located in North Carolina, and I am a father of two young daughters and an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I also am working in the IT sales industry. So, and I've enjoyed working with Jeannie, and we've done a lot of work together. It's been great.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to hear your story because I know when you came to me, you were looking at other testimonials and watching other stories. So I think it's such a testament to all the hard work that you've done and how far you've come that now you get to inspire and motivate others. So can you tell everyone who's watching and listening why you hired me? And I know you came to me through specifically TMS, which is mind, body, and for chronic pain reasons. So if you can share where you were with your physical health and maybe mental health and stress.
Yeah, when I came to Jeannie, I had just learned a little bit about the mind body a few months prior to learning and meeting Jeannie. So I was in a place where I was learning about the mind body, but I also was having a hard time in the beliefs and understanding it. So I really wanted some assistance, somebody that could guide me through what kind of things to do. And I was struggling with my in feeling physically not in a good place. But after working with Jeannie now, I realized that there's nothing physically wrong with me. And that but at that time I was mentally lots of anxiety and stress. So I was really kind of looking for some hope that I had been through seeing lots of doctors, like a lot of people that find this work. Seeing doctors and not knowing what's going on is hard for somebody to deal with. But I think finally I was when I started working with Jeannie and learning about the mind body, it gave me the hope, and that there's a lot of people that a community of people that are learning and taking their health into their own hands, which is a good way to look at it. Where
Yeah.
I'm in control of that. So that's kind of where
Yeah.
I was at, and how I found Jeannie, and it's been wonderful working with her for the last few months.
Yeah, and it's only been 3 months. So I just want to say that you're still on your journey, and we know that there is full recovery and full healing, right? But I know that when you have the tools and the mindset and the shifts, all is possible. So what were some of the symptoms, if you don't mind sharing, or what was some of the things that, and I know you've seen the best of the best in terms of doctors and hospitals and tests, but what were some of the physical conditions? Because I know people are going to relate and have similar
Yeah,
and or different.
definitely. No, so the interesting one with, I'm sure a lot of people will relate, that I haven't had a diagnosis of a chronic illness, which is a unique case, because a lot of people do assume that there's something that you're going to be diagnosed with a name. So that's one thing that I do want to put out there. But then with that, I had unexplained numbness on one side of my body, like cold, like just feeling cold all of a sudden, pain in the legs, muscle spasms that are uncontrolled, and then different sensations in the body, sometimes in the face. And then with these have also increased my level of mental anxiety and stress level, with those kind of elevating that. So definitely a lot of anxiety that I was going through when I met Jeannie.
Mhm.
So those are some of the symptoms, and then a little bit of insomnia actually too, which
Mhm.
people will relate. Not like I was learning
Yep.
at that time when I met Jeannie. I said, "Oh, if I can just sleep better," and it's it's one of those that another symptom that I had. So
Yeah, and I know you, like me, we did the whole Western route and you did all the tests and very mystery and we don't know, and you changed your diet, we talked about.
yeah.
And so when it's like time to get into this work, we feel that we can be ready. But I want you to share too, if you don't mind, this would be really helpful, is that I know all of us, sometimes we feel, and sometimes even men too, right? Like, oh, I should be able to do this on my own, or why can't I do this on my own? And there's a lot of knowledge out there. So what would you say to someone who thinks like, well, I should be able to do this on my own, or what's wrong with me
No,
that I can't?
yeah, that's well, exactly what you're asking is kind of where I was at when I came to Jeannie. And I think it's and I remember this distinctly because Jeannie, you know, and that's what Jeannie does as being a good coach. She's there and is there for support, but also she challenges you in a good way to you know, get out of your comfort zone. So, you know, she said, you know, with all these symptoms, they've been lasting a long time and they're affecting your daily life. Like, how much longer do you, like, is that sustainable? And it made me really, like, in retrospect, think, you know, I know how difficult my days are, like day to day, and dealing with symptoms and try and really sinking in with a plethora of knowledge, because there is a lot. So listening to podcasts, reading books, there's so many resources online, and you know, they are great. I know everybody, Jeannie will make good recommendations, but also you can easily find them. But I think I came to the realization that I could see myself in Jeannie's story when I learned about Jeannie's work and coaching, and listening to her story and going through the doctors, and I said she's done this, so she can really relate. And even after our first conversation, just relating on so many levels of going to doctors and changing our diets and doing so much, and seeing you know, that she's now coaching, and that was a big inspiration for me, and just giving me that hope that I needed.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And I think there is something kind of sacred and special about a coaching container, right? Because I try to show up all the time, you know, without judgment. And like when you've gone through it yourself, we can understand, because I work with other people with chronic health conditions and TMS. So even if it's not the symptom, obviously, that I've had, it's like the same feelings underneath it, right?
Yes, and
So
that's a big thing that I learned is the feelings and emotions play into our health more than we know and are ever taught. So that's one of the big things that Jeannie continues to remind me, you know, that feeling feeling is good, and not necessarily looking to feel better from whatever your issues are, or whatever is bothering you. So just feeling into your emotions and expressing them, because sometimes it can be difficult to do that. So
yeah, and it's really, like I said, it's really special to have this space and this container, because really the emphasis we do want in life is that we're not talking about it all the time, right? And we want to get to the point where not everyone knows us as that person, right? I mean, it
yeah.
still comes up. My mom's so cute. Sometimes when she sees me lift things, she's still like, "Oh, but you're back." I'm like, "I'm good
Mhm.
now," but I'm, you know, like, it's kind of this identity, and it's still, yeah, it's just, it's an important piece of the strength, and you know, the feelings. I just did a breathwork class this past weekend, and we talked about confidence and worthiness, and I really addressed the TMS mind body community in terms of, even if you are on the other side, or even if you're going through your journey, right? The stress, the trauma from this, all the judgment, the emotions, they're in the body. And straight to Antonio's point, if we're able to start to feel and move through some of this, then we're not going to be repressing it. It's not going to come out sideways as chronic pain. So I know it's not the sexy, like, hey, let's feel some emotions, right? And it's not sometimes what we like want to hear, but it's what we need to hear, that this is the way out. As to take Alan Gordon's, like, the way out is through the body. And since I do such breath work and embodiment, like the body, right? And I know, isn't it scary to like want to be in the body and be embodied and like start to feel these sensations and emotions without fear? So it's a shift. It's not, you know, when we talk about knowledge, right? There's books and there's podcasts and there's so much information. And I heard Tony Robbins just say this recently. It's not that we need more knowledge, we need more wisdom. And he says that the wisdom is in the body. And I just love that. We don't need more knowledge. We don't need more information. We need more wisdom. And the wisdom that we all have, it's in our body. So we're just here to show you, yeah, that it's in us through the body. And I always tell Antonio and my clients, like, less is more with this work, right?
Yes, and just to go off of what Tony Robbins said about the wisdom part, I just heard something very recently about somebody said that having a child's heart, the heart of a child and the imagination of a child is was huge. It was somebody similar to working with the mind body, but just realizing that being like having that kind of imagination and just of it that we think of as a child, that and you approach life like that, there's so many things that you find out about yourself and that are out there when you're not looking from it as a, you know, an adult and daily schedules and all the things that we all tend to come through. But just in that perspective, it was one of those things that I hadn't, it kind of, the way when I heard that, it was like, wow, that's really profound. It sounds, you know, like, what does that kind of mean? But if you really kind of understand it and hear what that means, I think that's kind of what we should all strive for, to have a child's heart, and how we approach ourselves.
And we can kind of be gripping so tight, right? This pressure and the perfectionism, and we're like gripping in this like pain, and we're in the doing. And then we do need to hear, like, TMS is so much repetition, and that's why we need to have this relationship and these reminders and these check-ins. I know you're going to talk about that too, that since I'm not a therapist, and I mean, I don't know, maybe this is what therapists do, but I never worked with a therapist where we could check in and we could text. So if you could share a little bit too about, and I can't remember, I think, did you work with a therapist before?
Yeah, I did.
And you could share how this is different too. Yeah.
Yeah, just for a short while. Yeah. So I worked with a therapist for a few months prior to Jeannie, but yeah, it was just a lot of just talking, like, you know, asking, and I was also at a different point. Luckily, when I started working with Jeannie, I had found out about the mind body, and it was something that when I was talking to a therapist, it was more on the lines of like mentally where I was going through, like I was going through the medical system at that time. So like having lots of tests. So it was more just like me kind of spilling out and talking for a long time, and the therapist listening at that time. And I feel like they never were able to give me something that kind of stuck. And then working with Jeannie, I can, a lot of the knowledge that I gain and the tools that I gain, I've been able to put into practice and actionable. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the tools, and then can you share about like the check-ins? Because I know you did such a great, and it, you know, we say like what you put into the coaching container and like what you put in is what you're going to get out. So because you were so committed, and I know I want to share about the check-ins and like the texts and stuff, because TMS unfortunately is not linear. So I know it helped you a lot, the fact that we could check in and communicate throughout the week.
Yes. So when you're working with Jeannie, you're usually meeting about once a week. So the difference, and you're doing that with sometimes with a therapist, but the big difference is, like Jeannie said, that she offers check-ins. So it's about 3 times a week you're checking in. But Jeannie can, that she doesn't limit it to that. So some weeks I would message Jeannie probably every day, and but it was a good way for, you know, me to talk to her and let her know if there was a question that I had from our previous session, to kind of build on that, or a concern, or, you know, when you're going through the journey that's difficult and not linear and you're having a bad day, I could let Jeannie know. But there was also a lot of times where I would check in with Jeannie and I would be having an awesome day, and she could tell pretty quickly, I'm sure. And then sharing, you know, some big wins either in my family life or personal life, yes, finances. We get into a lot. So that's what Jeannie also does. You know, Jeannie's a life coach, but she also, so there's a lot in that she can go to where you need the help at that time. Yeah. For me, it was my health and the mind body, and we worked on that. But she's also helped me in finances and relationships. Time is a big one. Mm-hmm. The perception and what we have, think of time and not having enough time. Jeannie, you know, has explained it in a way that time is a relationship, and when you look at we know what relationships are, when we look at time and money as relationships, it gives it a different meaning, and understand that it's something that you need to work on and figure it out. So that's a big thing that helped me for sure.
Yeah, and I love too, it seems to happen with a lot of my mind body TMS clients, is in the beginning, we focus more on the chronic pain. And then little by little, I notice that they're not bringing it up. And then we start talking about career or money, which I know we started with you and the kids. And then it gets to be really fun. Well, it's always fun, but it's always like the possibilities, right? And it is nice when you have a family and a busy life, and to know that you have support, right? And because we were saying before, it's not the best to always be talking about TMS with our friends and family, and that's how the identity that we want, right? So it's kind of like, okay, I have this safe space, but then I don't have to obsess about it or kind of carry the burden. I know a lot of times, and I think you, Matt, has said this, it's like once you hired me, you already felt better of like, okay, I don't have to like carry this all by myself. And I'm not going to do all the research anymore. Like, I'll just know that if there's something, I don't have to listen to all the, like, I know that, like, hopefully, yeah, that you're in safe, good hands, so that you have someone rooting you on the whole way.
Exactly. And like we said, just having the more fun that I brought into situations, and being in the present. There's so many like things with the mind body and tools and the stuff that I learned that is really like simple in terms of concept, but it's stuff that doesn't come up. But this is where you can kind of explore it, and you actually, it's kind of in your face. You have to put it in the forefront during this time too, because I was telling somebody this recently, like we tend to wait until something's broken or something's not working with our body, with something to dive into it, instead of learning these prior to having issues or something coming up. So I think this is something that should be taught, like the stuff that I learned should be taught to everybody, because it's can help you
Yeah.
in all aspects. And that's why Jeannie's a life coach, because a lot of this stuff is, everything's relatable in the sense of like, you just have to put it in context of what what the specific topic is, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah, so tell us, are you playing sports? Are you having more fun?
Yes, like when I was
How's
with
work?
Jeannie, yeah, when I started working with Jeannie, like I was very like, with anything coming up, like events with friends, it was always like, well, am I gonna feel all right? That type of thing. And then now it's like, even today, today was a perfect example. I'm not a super morning person, but I'm back to getting into my exercise. So I went to work out with people at 5:30. A group of people work
Oh,
out.
I didn't know that. 5:30. Okay.
5:30 on Thursday. That's actually been in the last 2 weeks. I'm working out twice, because you knew I was working Saturday mornings. Now they're getting me out to 5:30. And the funny thing is that, yeah, 3 or 4 months ago, like I wasn't really working out. Like I was very hesitant to, and now I know that there's nothing wrong. So I'm out working out. And the same thing with work. I'm making strides in my current role, and looking for possible career progression, and just learning what how my skills could be transferred if it need to. So that's good. And then my like Jeannie said, I have a family. My wife and my daughters have been a big support as well. And like Jeannie said, that when I was working with her, it's nice to not solely feel like you're relying on your family to be
Yeah.
there, because they're going to be there. But then it's like, sometimes I know I found myself several times just like, where I would be having a tough day and I would be internalizing it. So just kind of sitting there and like, I'm having a tough day. I was like, but I had talked to my wife about it several times, like for so many days, like she probably doesn't want to hear the same thing again. So that's kind of where, Jeannie's there to listen and give advice. And it was huge. Like it was huge in terms of, my relationship with my family and my wife as
Yeah.
well. So.
Yeah, because it's great that we have that support, but then I want Antonio and his wife to have more of that romantic relationship, right? And not like the burden of this all the time, so that they can, so it's like, I'll help you with that stuff. And then of course she can be there to support you, but Yeah, we can kind of look at things differently too. Because I know our family has the best intentions. And I remember, like, sometimes families like, well, just be positive or just keep going. And they have good intentions. But, I've kind of slammed some of these sayings that I'm not a big fan of and changed it a bit so that it's easier to digest for us, right? And we can use it to our advantage. Yeah. So just as we kind of close up here, if someone is, and I think it's great for you to like just call it out, right? Like you were nervous to work with me and you weren't sure, and that's totally okay, right? So what would you say to someone else? And like you watched my other testimonial videos and someone's like, well, I don't know, like I don't know if I need it or I can wait
Yeah.
till next year. Like what would you say if they've been watching it up to this point, then
Yeah, it's definitely I think go with your intuition. I think Jeannie is professional. She's one thing that she was always, if she told me she was going to do something, send me some information, she always did. So, just know that you were watching something for a reason, and that's what I realized. And then also just having the support just makes a huge difference. And if you don't know like the ego and the intuition, Jeannie would get into it, but our egos are they serve a purpose to an extent, but they also want to keep us from growing and our full potential sometimes, to keep us in our comfort zone. So so it would be almost a natural, like if you immediately meet Jeannie and say, let me work with her. No, but trust me that Jeannie builds trust with me and all her clients. So that's what her work is, and she helped me a lot, and I know she's helping a lot of her other clients. So I don't know what else what else I
no,
could say to
that's
convince
sweet.
you, but she's I know the biggest thing is the confidence that the word popped up.
Mm,
Jeannie several times would tell me, borrow my confidence, and and understand and give yourself worthiness and give yourself grace. There's a lot of inner work that that I never even realized, that besides
yeah.
emotions, just our inner voice and inner critic that come out. And so I think being able to be aware of a lot of stuff, there's a lot more awareness in my day-to-day of like, I can know when my emotions, or I can know when my inner voice is like, or my ego is trying to hold me back from something, or stop me from doing something that I know I should be doing. So definitely I've grown a
Yeah.
lot. So
Yeah, and I was just gonna say too, if you think this is just gonna be TMS coaching, you have another thing coming, right? This is like self-love, this is
yes.
worthiness, this is compassion, this is maybe getting out of your comfort zone in your career. I mean, it's always guided by, if people don't know, I have a form that they fill out before every single coaching call. So I don't just like, oh no, I don't want to talk about that, right? It's like always based on what you want to talk about. But yes, there's all these other things, stress, money, like we said. So it really isn't, if you just think it's just, well, I don't, like the pain, if it's only for the pain, I mean, there's so many layers, which why it's such dynamic work. So yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
Any other last comments before I let you go?
No, like I just said, if you're on the fence, if you're unsure, definitely Jeannie is a wonderful coach, a wonderful
Oh,
person, and she'll be in your corner for the process, and she's very good at reading what you need at that moment. There was times when I would come to a session and be grounded, or she could call me out and she could tell me like, you're like, you you're putting on like laughing about different stuff, but I can tell there's other stuff underneath it, and it's stuff that you wouldn't notice by yourself, like, because
mm,
like we all think we can. We're so used to being able to work so hard to achieve whatever we want, and this is one of those that it doesn't work in that way that we're used to. So I think Jeannie's a wonderful
oh,
option to help people. And the breath work, I'll plug your breath work.
oh,
She also has a breath work that I didn't know about before I started working with her, which is funny, but I know she's well known for that. But that's another tool that you have to try that out as well. It was on top of working with her, because profound changes.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I told you before, and I just want to repeat it that this is going to inspire a lot of people. And I know, men and women, it's really brave to share your story. So thank you so much. All right. Bye, Antonio.
Bye.